Friday. Welcome to No Meat Athlete Radio. Matt Frazier here, joined by Isabelle Caputo. As it says on the live stream, you can read our names if you're here live. But if you're not, if you're listening podcast, if you're a No Meat Athlete Radio listener, then I think this is the first episode officially after we've launched the new format. Because right now it's Friday, so I shouldn't have said Happy Friday, because if you're listening to this on a podcast, it'll be Monday. But on Sunday, I will, with Doug, have put up a message saying kind of what the new plan is. So this is the first thing after that, making it kind of the official first thing, which is exciting. By this time, we will also have graphics and things up that are representative of the new setup. So should all be very good. We'll see. We're going to try to do a lot of them in a live situation, and I have blinds arriving really soon, thankfully, because this sunlight is terrible. You can see this level is rising up in the old True Classic tea there. Once that reaches the top, once it reaches my neck,
then
we're
you're
done.
Squid. Yeah.
It's gonna be bad. Hey, look, Bianca's here. That's good to see.
Bianca, hello.
For a Friday show. Yeah, Bianca, we're doing them. The plan is every Friday there's going to be a No Meat Athlete Radio show, and it'll always be Friday. But if you're a podcast listener, you won't get it till Monday. I think. I forget how we're doing.
You'll get Friday vibes on Monday, hopefully.
Yeah, I forget what the plan is for when they actually go up, but we'll figure all that out. That's just what we're dealing with right now, making changes. Isabelle, I don't actually know if you're a Starbucks fan. I only think you might be because you went to a Starbucks for our first plant-based morning show like a year ago, more than a year ago.
That's quite the leap.
I know it's a lot to say. That means you're a Starbucks fan. Are you a Starbucks fan?
I was when I went places. I would get it was my special coffee. I'd get a special coffee every week, but I don't even know the last time I've purchased something from Starbucks because I live up in the mountains now and we don't go places very often.
You don't go anywhere. Okay. Yeah. So you don't get a special coffee anymore.
I am a fan every once in a while, but I'm definitely not I couldn't spend $18 on a drink every single day. I wouldn't do that to myself.
Definitely it's expensive, but you're not like Doug. You don't have some sort of moral opposition to Starbucks or responsibility to your constituents that you must not support it.
No, I do not.
Okay, good. Well, I went there today to get the Oleato, the new olive oil infused coffees that hit the nationwide Starbucks rotation 2 days ago, and I didn't hear about it somehow. I've been kind of looking forward to that day for a while. But I got it today and I thought it was really good. Everyone's hating on it. All the articles are like, oh my gosh, olive oil coffee, bowels nightmare. It doesn't even sound good. Someone commented today. I think a relatively loyal listener said it doesn't sound good at all, but I'm not even a coffee drinker or something. So I think everyone just wants to hate this. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was
what's in it? Besides olive oil, obviously.
The main drink, I think you can get it. You can get the foam stuff. It's oat milk foam. Oh. Or sorry, I shouldn't say it is always oat milk. I don't know for sure. The drink I got was oat milk infused with this olive oil. Very nice kind. They're also selling the olive oil itself if you want to buy olive oil at Starbucks now.
Why not?
And blonde espresso. So just like a latte, but it has olive oil. And to me, it's not. It's like, I mean, that's not a crazy idea because if you got a whole milk latte, if you drink whole milk, you're getting fat and
tons
milk
of fat. Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing. So it wasn't weird at all. It had a slight olive oil richness that was a little bit different than I remember from if I used to drink lattes. But it was great. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So I'm a huge fan of that drink. I'm gonna be beating the drum about that for a while.
I want to try it. It sounds delicious. I figured it was going to be coconut oil because I feel like that just seems more like a coffee mixture, but I love olive oil. I use it unless I'm doing something that's a really delicate flavor, always olive oil.
Yeah.
Shove that in there.
Me too. You can get light tasting olive oil, which is a nice thing for those delicate things. So I do that as well. Coconut oil is like the vegan bulletproof coffee hack is you make your coffee with coconut oil. And I may have tried that one time, I forget, but I did not like it at all. It just ruined it. Okay. Anyway, people are trickling in. I don't know if these shows will be like the morning show where the whole time we're just engaging with the audience. I don't really know. We're not sure how it'll go. Maybe. But in the meantime, we've got some regulars here, morning show regulars. Bianca Phillips, who was a regular, she doesn't come on non-Fridays anymore because she can't. But with Friday shows now, it's different. Garuda Legends, recent attendee of the show past few weeks, and good conversationalist, I would say. And Britters, who's been chatty recently in the morning show chat. So good to see everybody. Anyway, Isabel, we're talking today about resolutions. We stole the idea from Doug. I think he had that idea for when this was going to be a 4-person show, and you and I needed something once he and the other Matt couldn't make it. So we said, let's take Doug's topic.
Why not?
But well, today's February 2nd. That's Groundhog Day. I said yesterday that I didn't care about Groundhog Day, but I did see today that he I don't know what he did, but it means spring is coming soon.
I don't know which one.
Punxsutawney Phil. Which one means that spring is coming? I mean that it's not.
I have absolutely no idea.
I don't either. I think if he doesn't see it and he stays out, it's good. Anyway, I also did a quick math and found that we are 8.7% through the year now. Last time we did this update on the morning show, we were 7%. That was 2 days ago. But I guess every 3 days is a new percent. So the year's ticking by. So if you've got a resolution, it better be going by now, because you're almost 10% done the year, even with a leap year. So we're talking about what happens if it's not going, because apparently, by the 17th or what, there's all kinds of stats about it. But there's always, they fail. 90% are failed by a certain day in January or whatever. So I think we're assuming we're safe in assuming that many people's listening to this, their resolution has failed or is in danger of failing. So we're going to talk about what do you do in that situation to try to get it back on track. So we'll start, Isabel, by talking about our own. I haven't talked about mine very much on the morning show because I didn't really have very official ones. But what about you? What is your New Year's resolution, or what are your resolutions or goals or whatever you want to call them?
Yeah, we all kind of always have, like, we do this every year, really like it. We always kind of have a couple that we do. So like we have a financial one for us and like the family, but one of my New Year's resolutions, or one of ours as a family, is to try to involve my daughter, who is almost 3, more in exercise, because she just loves running around with us. She loves, we both do home workouts, my partner and I, and she just loves doing them with us. So we're like, okay, like how can we use this as a tool to help burn her energy a little bit more? And I'll be honest, we have thoroughly failed in that resolution. Yeah, because she was sick. She was sick for like a week in January. She's been a little sick now. She has a little tummy ache. So we'd again, all of these excuses that all of us make about our resolutions. And so now I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about how I can get back into it and make sure that
you're not here to give advice. You're here to get advice mainly.
Yeah. But so that's one of them. And then one that I'm actually succeeding in is actually following my running plan, my training plan, which I, like many ultra runners, am terrible at. And we're like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. And then we just crazy undertrain all the time. So I've been really good at that. And I've been very focused on getting my training time and actually doing the plan as it's said. So that one's going well. Mm-hmm.
And you're there. The goal is actually run a 50-mile race. Is that the ultimate goal of the year as far as running goes? And then you've got the plan to get you there?
Yes, that is the ultimate goal. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm building up to the 50K, and then that's the ultimate goal for the year.
Cool. Good. Perfect. Good. I'm glad you got that one, because I have in my list of notes that I wanted to mention today for ideas, things to do, I have a failed first 100-mile experience of my own, and not same as a 50-miler, but not that different. And I failed, and then I later did succeed, and I have I was able to draw a distinction as to what worked and what didn't.
Ooh.
I know. So
ready.
That's not a teaser for you, then. I don't know what what's any better than that. Anyway, so yeah, let's. I for my own part didn't really set resolutions. Oddly, I used to be super into resolutions. I was a big time goals person, big resolution setter. I still really like New Year's for the feeling of new beginning, new fresh. I don't know, not fresh start, but just the inspiration of knowing another year's passed. You got a full one here ahead of you. I just like that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through a bunch of stuff. I read some stuff. I wrote down all the stuff that I felt like I accomplished, or basically the significant happenings of last year, which I like to do that every year. I feel like it's just a good practice to kind of note what has gone on. But I never really set anything. I don't know. I wasn't feeling like that inspired to actually like commit to something.
Hmm.
What kind of came about was I had decided that I wanted to read more often because I used to like reading and then I kind of just stopped. And then I said a book a week would be really cool, but it seems like too much. Like I don't really want to spend that much time reading. But last year I read a book every 2 weeks without really trying. So I thought it's got to be more than that. So I figured, 3 a month might be good. And so I started that. And then my wife's also doing the same thing. Coincidentally, she wanted to read more. So then we started sort of competing, and now I've done great. I've read I think 7 books. I have a list that I'm keeping, but I have 7 books, so more than a book a week.
Woo.
I know it's great, and so that has turned out really well, which in itself is a little bit interesting to me since it wasn't like a big firm like I'm committing to this goal. I'm going to start reading X amount of time per day in order to reach 1 book per week, which would have been my old approach to doing that sort of thing. So I'm kind of interested in how that has actually worked out. I don't know for sure that it will last, but I do think that it will. And so that's really the only one that I've got. Like I had some other thoughts about wanting to be more disciplined, more regimented with fitness stuff. I haven't really done that because I didn't really ever set out to. I just sort of I thought about it, didn't decide. So anyway, so that's all I got. Just that simple reading goal. But like I said, it has worked. So
yeah,
we can get into a little bit about why it might have. But anyway, let's talk about failing. What's going on? Like for example, with your daughter, planning with her to do more fitness, more exercise. Let's talk about what happens. What do you do to kind of get it back on track now that we're a month into the year? And if it's, I don't know, I mean, a lot of them are probably done. People are probably just completely finished with those goals or forgot about them after a week of January. So the very first thing that I kind of go to in that situation is the old big, massive action versus small steps distinction. Because I think with New Year's, a lot of people, they want to they get the idea to do something major. And we have this sense, often mistaken, that because it's a new year, like we're just going to have this new willpower that's just going to keep showing up for us as long as we start this habit and don't make a mistake and miss. And it's just going to keep coming, and it's going to be pretty easy to keep, working out every day or doing whatever new thing we plan to do. So I consider that to be like massive action type thing. Like I'm just going to start something, and it's going to be, I'm going to do a lot, but I'm going to draw on all this limitless willpower that I will suddenly have because it's a new year. That's kind of a massive action thing. So my suggestion to almost everybody is when you fail at that, because that's how most people try to make a change, is like, don't give up and say, well, that didn't work. I guess I can't become a runner, or I guess I can't go vegan, or can't do whatever I set out to do. But instead, like, go back, start over, and just like massively reduce the amount of action that you need to take to be successful. So the easiest example is like a running situation. If you were going to start running or working out or whatever for an hour a day or 45 minutes a day, if that was your thing, like change it so that it is like 2 minutes a day. And because it's so hard to fail at that, I didn't say it's hard to fail. It actually is possible to fail even at that if you just keep putting it off. But like it's so much easier to succeed. And I think we sort of train ourselves, most of us as adults, like start to learn that we aren't really that good at changing. And so we get so used to failing at goals that to actually just like have something that's so easy that you start to string together 5 or 7 or 10 days of it in a row, it actually feels good even when that's just a really, really small thing. So then from there, you can of course increase it. You can have a plan that says after I do 1 straight week of 2 or 5 minutes, I'm going to up it to 10 minutes or whatever. You can do that. But I don't think that's the important part. I really think the important part is just like starting out with the smallest possible thing and beginning. I'm not saying that like that's the ultimate approach to any sort of habit change, because there are times maybe when that's not the best thing to do. But I think if you have just failed at something, it's a really nice way to kind of get on track. And I think it might end up, leading somewhere different than you expect. But I think it's a good way to reset and start to train yourself that you actually can keep those promises that you make to yourself.
I think that's a great point of like who cares if you fail? Like you just need to then take the step to commit to this thing. Because I think you're right. Like so many times it's like, like I want to lose weight. Like this broad goal that doesn't have any like actionable steps to it. And so then like, you weigh yourself a week later and you're like, oh, I didn't lose any weight, so I failed. So I'm done with this and I'm not continuing with it.
Right.
I think that's another one of the easy examples. But like for me with my daughter, like I could sit right now and be like, we missed a month because she was sick and all these different excuses. But like that mindset is, it's like the fixed mindset versus growth mindset of like, oh, okay, I failed, then I'm done. We're not doing this anymore. Versus, okay, how can we bring this back, actually make it actionable and do the things? And that's where I failed with, trying to get my daughter more exercise and like having that experience with her. Is there was no set action to it. It was the big goal of like, oh, she'll just do this with us. And clearly it doesn't work. And clearly we failed. And so now going back, as you said, and saying, okay, like, let's make sure like 5 minutes every day we'll have this, we'll try to set aside this specific time and like do these things. And maybe we'll try that for a week. Maybe that'll fail. Okay, 2 minutes, 1 minute, as you said, really small chunks to start getting you to be more successful. I think that's a great approach. And I think that's, going back to your goal too, I think part of why you've succeeded maybe too is the flexibility that you've had. Like you didn't set a goal of, oh, I have to be doing X amount. It was like, all right, I'll try to do 3 a month. And then look at you, like you've done 7 in, I don't even know how many weeks it's been, 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Right.
And that kind of flexibility too, I think goes back again to like the growth mindset of being able to be flexible, but also keeping these things in mind that you're wanting to accomplish and that you're able to accomplish.
Yeah, I think it's what makes this stuff so challenging, because I mean, I've talked about goals for 15 years now with No Meat Athlete stuff, and my approach has changed so many times, and I have gone back and forth between saying this is the right way to do it, then no, actually this is the right, because at the beginning I was all the massive action, like Tony Robbins, like just go for it, like that's what I was all about, and it kind of worked at certain things, and then I learned about this small steps thing, and I thought, okay, that's actually the way to really do stuff, and then I've come back and forth since then, and like now I realize like there's not really a formula for making this stuff work. It's the flexibility is what you have to have, and this, of course, the desire to really do the thing. But I think if you have those two things and you just say, I'm not going to stop till I get this, but I'm also not going to just put my head in the sand and keep saying, well, I'm doing the same thing over and over and I just can't make it work. So therefore it doesn't work. So like you said, like it's not like you have to necessarily move to a smaller step or something. It sounds like you just needed to like make an actual plan to do it instead of visioning it and hoping it just happens. Which is funny because I had that later as like, I actually think that's one of the ways to make stuff happen. It's like, if the plans are too much, like if the figure out the goal a year from now and then figure out what you need to do by 6 months and what you need to do by 3 months, and then down to what do you need to do on a daily basis, like that's a whole lot of structure and stuff. And I think for certain people at certain times in their life, that's really the best way to make something happen. But I think there are other times when that's actually too much. And if you just think about that final end goal, then I think sometimes your body or your brain or whatever starts to figure out how to make it happen, and you end up surprising yourself. So I can get to that in a little bit. That my 100-mile example kind of is that one. But yeah, I think it's interesting that like these things can be so different at different times in your life. So you need a plan, I guess. You guys need some sort of small structured thing for what you're going to do.
Yes.
That's good.
That's where we're going next.
That's where we're going next.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we got the another thing I like to do a lot is the shorter deadline. The old 30-day challenge, I think is fantastic, and I think in many ways much better than a 1-year thing. Right? If you wanted to change your diet for a year, or say I'm going to do whatever for a year, and it just hasn't worked, I think if you just change it to like I'm going to do this thing for the month, that's great. Like I think a lot of people. I did it last year. I did exercise every day for a month. In the beginning of the year. And I also did no fake meats for a month. And both of those worked great. Like they didn't like permanently change my habits or anything, but it led to a really nice start of the year. And just a successful kind of momentum building. So I don't know. I think like the old month-long challenge is in many ways better than like the crazy big audacious year-long I'm gonna change everything in a year.
Because it feels more doable. It's a shorter time frame. I did over the winter from December to January. I did a run challenge where I ran at least a mile every day, and it like just because I wanted to keep myself motivated during the winter, which is so hard to do. And like, just like that little bit of challenge, like really sparked energy in me and like helped me be like, oh, okay. Like now I feel like I've got this little bit of a base and like, I feel like I can jump into this running plan that I'm doing. But I think you're right. Like having shorter term pieces, again, depending on the phase of life that you're in, can really help you be more successful because again, it's smaller. It's so much more easier to accomplish. Like I can accomplish that thing today and for 15 more days, let's say, instead of like, oh, I have to run a mile every day for a year for 365 days. Like that's impossible. There's no way that I'm going to succeed at that. So I think that's a good piece too, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, to go even more extreme with it, a story I've told many times on No Meat Athlete Radio, so people will have heard this before if they've been around for a while.
Ooh.
But if you're trying to, for me, when I went vegetarian for the first time, it was like, I think it was a 10-day challenge, and then that was successful, so I expanded it to be a 30-day challenge. But I realized, like, I had one time prior to that tried to go vegetarian, like just did it, and it lasted like a weekend, and I just gave up. Because it was like this indefinite ending, like I'm going to be vegetarian now. And when you do that, suddenly all the demons come in about like, I can never have all these favorite foods again. And it turns into this big,
identity crisis
thing that, there's just all this resistance around it. So like, if I don't know, just saying like, I have to just get to this finish line. It just helps you to make better decisions because you're not deciding this thing for the rest of your life. It's just to make it to this weekend or whatever it is you have to get to, for the sake of your challenge. And then you can decide to go back the other way, or you can keep doing it like I did in that case. But I think short-term deadlines are really helpful. So if you've had a 1-year goal and it just didn't take off, I mean, think about what you can do. Can you make it a February goal? I guess you're a little late now, but can you make it a February 4th through March 4th goal or something like that? And just do a 30-day thing. And then at the end of that, if you decide you want to do a year, like go for it. Then you'll have a bunch of momentum, but you don't have to. It just doesn't have to be that hard.
I agree.
All right. Similar note to that, I think, is I mentioned this idea of setting all the milestones and things like that. And people do that. You set a 1 year or 3-year goal or whatever, and then you work backwards and you figure out what you need to do, where you need to get all along the way. I have typically found that doesn't work. Like I think every single time I've tried that, it has actually failed. I can't think of one time when I successfully like kept checking off the milestones and saying, yep, now I did that much and now I did that much and I'm on track here to get the big thing that's going to come at the end of the year or whatever. I just think it never has happened. I think so much more important than that is changing those daily habits, like changing what it is you do day to day. And I guess it comes from like the fact that that's something like I can decide right now to do something and actually experience some bit of success for today because I did this fitness habit or whatever this thing is that I wanted to start doing, playing the piano, maybe whatever thing I'm trying to do, I can just go do it. If instead the goal is like be able to play this one piece on the piano by the end of the year, that's really, really hard right now. I don't know. It's just much harder. And for me, it hasn't worked. So I think instead thinking of like, what can I do in the moment to change kind of who I am on a day-to-day basis? I think there's a whole lot of power in that. And I think it's also very similar to what we were kind of just talking about with the 30-day challenge. It's kind of a similar idea that you can think instead about your habits rather than like the goal and the milestone. For some people, that might be a better approach at different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it goes back to like we were talking about phases of life. Sometimes in life or as some people are motivated by different pieces, and like you need to figure out for yourself what's really going to be the motivation for you. And if you trying to cross these different milestones, checking the boxes, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, then try something else. Try a daily habit change. We talk a lot in our family about phases of life because we have little kids. And so like every day is different and every day is new. And that means that sometimes today I can do something, but tomorrow I might not have the same kind of motivation because of whatever else is happening in my life. So again, going back to that, being able to be flexible while also making sure that you're still successful. Like the rigidity, I think, is where a lot of people fail, is by saying like, if I don't do X, then I can't continue doing it. Whereas, if you don't do X at X time, Like, try again tomorrow, try again the next day, and then be consistent with it. Like, being able to have that kind of flexibility, that's where I think success comes from.
Yeah. We haven't yet mentioned perfectionism, and that's a perfect example. Like that is, I think, the classic form of rigidity that you're talking about, where like, if I don't do this new thing every single day at this time, like the people who, take on a big, huge running goal or whatever, or a diet goal or whatever. And like for the first 2 weeks of the year, it feels like it's great. Like you just haven't missed yet, and life hasn't thrown anything at you yet that would cause you to miss. And so it seems like it's working great. And I guess we get all this, good feedback that it has been working. And maybe that's why we sort of associate that with like the way, because I think this is the way most people think they're supposed to change habits. Is like, start a streak, be perfect, and be perfect forever after that. But then eventually something comes up. Yeah, right. Something comes up eventually, messes it up. You fail one time, your friends are going to the bar or whatever, and you just decide to do that instead of your workout. And then it feels like, failure. Like you're done. You fell off the wagon. The progress you made in 2 weeks is erased because one time you didn't do the thing. And you've shattered this image of the perfect new you. And it just doesn't work. So that's, I think, to generalize that, I think just saying remain flexible in your approach, meaning if you mess up, and of course you are going to mess up, you have to have some way to get back on, and it doesn't feel like failure because you messed up once. So again, I want to point out, like, I don't think any one of these is the answer. The more we can generalize and say being flexible like that, I do think that's generally the right thing. But all these different examples we have, they're just ideas. They're not anyone's gonna be right for everybody at every time. I got a little bit more, but let's check in quickly with the audience, what people are saying. We got Britter says she did she's reading much more as an adult. That's a good thing. She said she finished a 30-day yoga challenge, which made it obtainable and realistic. That's exactly what we're talking about.
That's awesome. Yep.
And it's yoga with Adrian, which I don't know what that is. Do you know what yoga?
I'm gonna check it out now. It sounds great.
Bianca knows it too.
Love it.
And Benji too. Whoever Benji is also he's loved.
He's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Garuda Legend says, hit the like button, please. And yes, absolutely. Please do that. Garuda is our resident omnivore who likes to slum with the vegans, I guess, a little bit and hang out and listen to things and object to certain things or encourage us and say, well, the other vegans all say this, but you guys say this, so this is much better. And I appreciate all that. I do appreciate the different viewpoints. So yes, please do hit the like button. We got this new format, which is different. And I mean, people aren't expecting us to go live at this time. So any help we can get with likes and all that would be wonderful. Please do that. And then there was one more I wanted to hit on here. I forget what it was.
Benji's the dog, I found out. Thanks, Britters.
Benji's the dog. Okay.
Gotta love dogs.
Okay, good. You have dogs?
Yeah, I have two pit bulls. I love them.
I don't know if I knew that. You don't post enough pictures of them.
I don't post enough pictures of
ever since those real kids came along. The dogs.
I know. Well, I barely take pictures of them too. It's a problem. It's a problem. I don't carry my phone with me very often, so it's both a problem and a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think
found the balance.
I think it's pretty much a good thing. You may want to remember a few moments. Probably good to have a couple pictures, but I don't think you need to share them with everybody. I don't think anybody really cares that much. That's why I don't take pictures. And who wants to stop having fun and stop living life to say, well, pause, capture the moment. I don't like that.
No, I don't hate dogs, Bianca. There you go.
Yeah, Doug
hates dogs.
Does hate dogs. Yep. If anyone's campaigning against him for Black Mountain Town Council next year, hatred of dogs is one of your things you can use. We'll see if we can get him to say something mean about elderly people or kids or something. You can add that to the ammo. All right, we're about done here. I got one more bit, and this is my 100-mile thing, and it's kind of related to the habit thing. So when I think it was 2011, the sun is creeping up really high on my face. It's distracting me.
You're doing a good job of.
I know. I'm moving over. I can't get away.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, it was 2011. I wanted to run a 100-miler. I had done, if the timeline is right, I had done a 50-miler, and I said, I'm ready for the 100 now. This is, I'm going to go get it. I'm excited. I'm going to publicly commit. So I put a post up on No Meat Athlete. I signed up for a race, paid $150 or something like that to go run a race in West Virginia. and I like made a training plan that I was going to do. And I literally never, ever one time set out foot outside and did a step of the training plan.
That'll
I just
do
didn't.
it.
Like I did the things you're supposed to do, and I just couldn't do it. Something was blocking me, and it was probably just being afraid of running 100 miles or just thinking that this isn't going to work. I can't do that yet. I'm not, for whatever reason, I'm not able to run 100 miles. I'm not in a state of mind that I could do that. And so I didn't. And I kind of like forgot about it for, I don't know, a year. Didn't forget about it. I kept thinking about it. It was this thing that I felt like I had failed at and was kind of embarrassed by having publicly committed and never even started. And then I like went through some stuff and like eventually started running again. I had kind of just stopped running, and I started running again just like for mental health, thinking like I'm going to start doing exercise because it's good for me. And I was like in kind of a meditation mindset. And I think this is when I started the nose breathing, which I talked about with Matt Tolman on the recent Outlier Health podcast. And I was just like going at a really slow pace. I was doing exactly some of the advice that we've talked about here. I started with, I think, 10 or 15 minutes for like my daily run I was going to do, which having run a 50 miler and a bunch of marathons and things, that was a very, very small amount. And I said, I'm going to add 5 minutes every week that I'm successful with this. But it wasn't about the running. It was about the time and the meditative aspect of it. And just like the quiet and I stopped like bringing podcasts along and all that. And I just like ran. And it turned out that like, I didn't really, and I wasn't thinking about the 100 mile anymore. That was done. But it turned out that I did this for like 6 months. And suddenly I realized I had like exactly the base that, you always want to have, but never actually do have before you start a training plan. Because before that, I was always like picking plans and it would say, well, you should have this for your base, but I wouldn't actually have had that. I'd just say, well, that doesn't apply to me.
I don't need that.
I'm just going to jump in here. And like I had done running for whatever it was, 4 or 6 months, and just running slow, easy, no hard workouts, and just built this base that you're supposed to have. And it was fantastic. So then I was like, for whatever reason, after having done that, it occurred to me, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually ready to start a 100 mile plan. Like I can go do this now. And so I picked a plan, picked a race. It was a year away still from then. But I just like gradually started training, and then it happened. And there weren't any problems. There wasn't injury issues. There weren't the overwhelm issues. It just happened. And my point is not that, like, that's the way to do this kind of thing. It's none of that. It's like, I just think there was something interesting about like such a different approach from like the first time it was this structured, it was this public declaration, and it was all this really overwhelming stuff that you're supposed to do when you set goals, versus what happens when you just like have this, like I had obviously set this intention. I knew that I wanted to do this thing. And it almost feels like my brain and body like figured out a way to do that without me realizing that's what was going on. That like, it just like, it was set. I kind of let go of all the structure around it. And then it ended up happening a year and a half later because I just sort of didn't think about it. So, and obviously eventually you have to, but I don't know. I just like that. And recently more and more of those types of things happen to me. And this reading goal is a little bit like that. Like I didn't plan to do it. It just kind of happened. So I guess I'm a little bit more than I used to, a fan of the kind of just, set, visualize, whatever, and then let the universe manifest it for you.
Let the universe do the work for you. Do you think it was the fear aspect? Like, because it sounds like with the first one, like it was just fear. Like you were like, well, this big goal, I can't do this thing. Do you think that was the motivating factor for you?
I really don't know. I'm not sure what it was. I do think, yeah, I think it felt like too much work. Like I just couldn't do that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was rushing. Maybe I really couldn't do it. Maybe I wasn't ready. And that was why it felt like too much. And I had to really start over, reset, build the good solid base. I don't know. I don't know why it worked, but sometimes I think your brain and body know better than you do.
That's very true. Interesting. Now I'm just, analyzing you, trying to figure out what maybe it was. I think, again, it goes back to the phases of life. Like maybe you were just in a point at your life where you weren't ready for that kind of challenge. And so your brain and your body were like, nah, you want to do this, but we're going to put these blockers in your way so that you can't do it. And then once you were at a point where you were ready for it, as you said, the universe manifested it for you, made it happen.
I mean, I think so. I don't know. And I don't know where I come out on that. Like sometimes I like to make fun of people who believe that stuff, that if you just envision it and then you just stop doing anything, the universe will make things magically appear for you. But there's a part of me that likes that likes the idea that maybe that somehow is true in some strange way. Who really knows? All right, let's see. Britter says, "What are you reading right now, Matt?" I've been reading a bunch of like financial trading books, believe it or not. Like I just kind of like that.
So exciting.
I know, like technical analysis type things. I just like it. I don't know why it never has really been much of an interest of mine, but recently it has been. But what actually is more applicable to this audience is a book called Hidden Potential. I mentioned it on the morning show by Adam Grant. It's about achieving big things. How do you do the big stuff? It's kind of like the 10,000 hour rule, Outliers, written by Malcolm Gladwell. Those types of thoughts. It's just more analysis about like what really great top performers have done. Like how do you get really good at learning? How do you get good at getting good at stuff? So I have been enjoying that one. I'm big on like to read 3 or 4 books at a time, and then I'll end up finishing 2 or 3 of those 3 or 4, and then the others I'll just leave behind. You don't like
I don't
that?
know how you do that. There's lots of people that can. I'm more of a fiction reader than a nonfiction. Unless I'm really in the mindset for some nonfiction, I don't typically do it. And then I'm one book at a time, real focused. I can't do multiple. Good for you.
You said, I was reading comments, so I didn't hear the part you said about fiction. You said you like fiction or nonfiction?
I'm a fiction. I like fiction.
You're a fiction. Okay.
I'm a fiction gal.
So we're different. We're not the same in some ways. We both like The Office and we both like Starbucks, but we're not the same.
It's true.
All right. Garuda says your body is not made to swim and run for sport. This is why you have to train your body to adapt to your wants. That's interesting. So you're saying you're not born to run, so to speak.
As the book would say. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I guess that that wouldn't be for sport, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree with that or not. I kind of do. I agree. Like for sport, no one's meant to run as much as a runner runs for sport. I don't think it's just, we're not really, even if you say evolutionarily we were persistence hunters, I don't think most people were running 2 hours a day. So that's possible that you're not meant for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe we're meant more for like walking, basically, because if you think back to hunters, gatherers, before we had vehicles, like you just walked
gatherer
everywhere.
hunters, right? That's
yeah.
the new,
Yes, gatherer hunters. Yeah, you walked everywhere or hiked everywhere, and like that's how you got around places. And so I see kind of the evolution there, but who knows? Who knows what we were made for? Not me.
Yeah. But I think Garuda's not saying you shouldn't do that stuff. Only that you have to train your body if you want that stuff. You can only go so far with heart, he says. You have to train your body to challenge. Challenging your body unprepared is not ideal. Yeah, I'll give you that. Challenging unprepared, not a good idea.
No, it's not.
Good. All right. Well, on that note, I think we're at the 45-minute mark or so. Now we started a little late. We're probably at 40. We're at the 37-minute mark, says the thing. But anyway, good. So thank you to those who showed up. Thank you for those who are listening to this in podcast form. As we said at the beginning, the No Meat Athlete Radio feed is now being filled with content, including plant-based morning shows and the Outlier Health podcast, and this show, which is the No Meat Athlete Radio podcast. I think No Meat Athlete Radio typically is going to be more of us. It's going to be 3 or 4 of us most days. Always Isabelle, often me, sometimes Matt or Doug. But I think we want that more to be the kind of round table show where, ideally today, 4 people could have told us about New Year's goals and things to do. But we haven't really quite gotten the scheduling just nailed down yet. But we're working on it. Isabel's still brand new. This was your 4th thing you've ever done of these types for us.
Yeah.
So I think you're doing a fantastic job for being relatively new still. So anyway, we're figuring out what these formats are going to be. So thank you everyone for hanging out, participating, and listening, and smashing that like button. Please go smash that like button. That's important to do.
Yeah.
I guess I should also advertise. Go to, if you're a podcast listener, youtube.com/NoMeatAthlete. That's still the URL to go to find the live stuff that we're doing. So if you can go there, you can subscribe to that. You can smash the like button, as we said. You can sign up for alerts, hit the bell thing so you get notified. And we're really trying to do the live thing. I think the live is going to be what makes this show different from other vegan things that are out there. And so I think people will like it. So anyway, do those things, and you'll be all right. You'll be set up for success.
Yeah.
All right.
New Year's resolution.
There you go. That's the easiest New Year's resolution to do. You can knock it out in a minute. Get yourself set up. But yeah, anyway, time to get to work on those, on saving those failed resolutions. Use these tips, mix it up, try different stuff, stay flexible. I think that's our conclusion. That's the one that really matters. Stay flexible and keep that goal top of mind, right? You want to know what you're going for, and you want to stay flexible. And I think if you do that, I think you will eventually get it.
And don't be afraid to fail, and then keep going after you fail. Try again. Try again.
Once you fail, you didn't really fail. There's just that approach at it failed. It's not like you failed. It's not like the goal failed. It's just that one way didn't work, so you got to do a new one.
Exactly.
So there you go. People are giving accolades to Isabelle. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Isabelle, for being willing to join us. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.